All right, just like clockwork, back on a Tuesday.
Kudos to you. I was actually like fully anticipating a Wednesday cast. You raced a full on Sunday. I traveled back and I was like, man, we still going today? But you're like, no, we can go early if you want. You're ready to roll. And it's a little rainy, but it is a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. It's September 9th, the year 2025. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 875.
Yep. I'm only 61, man. Don't write me off yet, bro. I'm back in the game.
Well, you kind of put out there that maybe you were just like, going to retire from the sport after what I thought. And we'll go, your dissection of the race is obviously way more important to mine. I saw somebody finish, and I thought that was one of, if not your top two best performances on that course.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, time-wise,
given, obviously we're everyone's getting older, right?
Yeah.
But I said that. I think that's one of his best performances. That you'd be pretty damn happy with that.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to break down about it. I think it definitely wasn't. I think it was my fourth best time there, but
yeah,
and not really close to the third. But there's a lot of things to like about it, Yeah, like you said, I never want to give in to this age thing, and but the one thing I realized out there again is that triathlon is 90% mental and the other half is physical. If I may borrow from Yogi Berra on his baseball quote.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to for me with what I did out there. And, I feel pretty good about my mental game on Sunday for various reasons, but we can get into them later.
Yeah, before we even get into the race, obviously we were out, late last week. We're all up in Wisconsin. We had, I think, close to 50 athletes in town doing the 70.3 and the full. And I will say we'll maybe do the same thing. Well, not maybe. We'll do the same thing next year and give a little more love, a little more livelihood to the 70.3. I had quite a few people stop and say, hey, I appreciate you guys giving love to the 70.3 with a little bit of a preview because it is such a different course. But man, Madison was in full display this weekend. Mm-hmm. I thought it was, and I said this even before, the race. And obviously you can have a little bit of prisoner of the moment, feels when you're there. And I try to stay away from that. But obviously, having so many of our athletes in town, and a bunch of first timers, bunch of people doing the Wisconsin course for the first time. And we, of all the races out there, and for obvious reasons, we do quite a bit of pumping up the city and the town and the race, and so it's kind of like they're going to give you a dud at some point. And obviously, I think registrations have been down the last 2-3 years, ever since that really rough rainy display that was cold. But this was the first time I have felt like that city. At least the race-wise, not the city, because the city was, again, the weather was absolutely fucking spectacular all weekend. It was glorious all weekend long. The farmer's market, not a cloud in the sky. You had a home football game. You had people in town for the race. It was amazing. You're walking everywhere. And it was the registrations were up. You kind of feel like, man, there's a lot of people here. I felt like at the 70.3 the day before that there were a lot of people in there when you kind of see how long it was taking to get in the water. They had great run weather, great weather in general, perfect run weather, very similar to the full. But yeah, you just kind of felt like there's more action going on. More people there, way more. I say way more. A lot. There were more spectators, at least where I was, which is the same place I've been camped out the last 5 years, even though they keep trying to fucking reorganize the whole, trying to put up a building where I stand. First you're moving my bus stop. Now you're putting up, digging a hole to put in a new building, whatever. As long as they can't get in the way of preventing people from standing in the hot corner. That was the most people I've seen on that in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I agree.
It was, I looked down State Street and I remember how it was the first year I ever did it. You and I did it together. And it seemed like it was 2-3 people deep. It felt back And which is again, if you're a long time, listener and a lover of that race, should be very, very encouraging, that the numbers looked up in both races. But again, it was a tremendous weekend. Athletes had, again, I didn't hear any. I mean, and you know how triathletes are, like they can find negativity wherever they want, but it was amazing. And the weather was great. The spectators are great. The athletes did amazing. All had great things to, say about it. Obviously, it's a challenging, rough, durable, hard course. But I think that, if you go into that mentality, you get a lot of it in return. And then, yeah, I think it was on full display this weekend. It was a pleasure to be at. It was great to see so many people out there push themselves, having a great time. And also, and I'll shut up and let you roll, but dear God, were the times fast. I don't know, because I had a bunch of athletes text me that weren't there. They were like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I think a lot of it had to do with like Nice being this weekend. There's not a lot of, at least, Americans that were super pumped to like take a Nice slot. So they rolled down a ton. So a lot of people are going that aren't probably in like the top tier, but this is one of the first Ironman races here in the US with the new qualification system to qualify for Kona next year. And dear God, were they fast. I mean, we're talking hours. I mean, thinking my age group alone last year, 5th place was like 11:10 or 11:20 in my age group. This year it was sub 10. I mean, it was unreal some of the times people were putting down. But again, overall, amazing weekend. If you were there, hope you had, that great experience. And there's a reason we always keep coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was all good, man. I'm just, no matter how I train or whatever, I just kind of always feel like I still got it in me. My best, we always talk about, we think our best race is still inside us. And I went into this with that idea in my head, even though, it's usually not, I don't know. I think I train enough, but I just felt like I was ready. But I mean, the reality is I was going into this with that idea in mind that, man, I can get back there. I knew it would take a perfect day or whatever, and when I say back there, it was like 12 hours. I think it was 12:57. I finished that. But so I'm like, I think I can do it. But man, I got to tell you, that week or so leading into it, I had some serious anxiety going on. And I don't know if it was because my brain was trying to say that and my body was like, what? Whoa, let's hold on here or whatever. But I don't normally get that. I wasn't nervous, but I think it was just sort of this anticipation or this expectation I put on myself, which is really weird. And then finally, I think when I got there, finally, like actually Fridays when I started just calming down and accepting it. And I kind of talked myself into just quit getting in tri-calc mode and all this shit, because, this stuff is hard and you just never know, right? And one of my certain doubts was, because I have ridden the bike course a few times this summer, and I just, like I told you, I can't get back. I'd never, I don't know if because we in Nashville used to ride the Trace all the time. I used to probably ride a lot harder. So that's the reality of it. And, I actually ended up, riding pretty well compared to what I have been, all summer and stuff down there. But I just wanted to bring the thing up about the anxiety because, I had a tight chest, and I had some heart palpitation shit going on, and my mind knew it was coming, and my body was just like, what is going on here, and but I think we all go through it. I think that the lesson I learned is basically there's just, you gotta, I don't know, it's hard to do, because I was trying to talk myself into this idea of just get out there and do your thing, but it really, I really had this, it was sort of like this goal I had, and I swam a lot actually in open water. I thought I was going to have a better swim, and then we can get into that, but it just sort of fell apart. I couldn't find my rhythm. I ended up swimming better than I did that first year. Mm-hmm. So, 13 years later, I had a faster swim, so that's something I can hang my hat on, I guess. But nonetheless, it kind of went to shit. I don't want to like make excuses, but I was having some really goggle issues out there, man. And I really underestimated that sun and how that might affect me, man. I mean, I was wearing like, wasn't reflective, but they were tinted. but they were so fogged up, man. They just kept fogging up. And when I turned that last corner to come in, back towards the exit, I couldn't see anything. It was unbelievable, man. So it was really like a mental test for me. And that's what I feel like I did a really good job all weekend, or all day, I guess, of just kind of adjusting. It was like, I stopped like maybe twice and tried to, lick my glass, just anything to get him fucking clean.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then I came around that.
Wait, time out.
What?
I'm trying to get, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm trying to get a visual here of you stopping middle of the swim.
Yeah.
To take your goggles off, lick them, and then put them back on.
Exactly. I mean, getting beat the shit in the process.
That's impressive in and of itself.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was like, I got to do this. And when I did it, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I was like people were bum rushing me and everything. But anyway, that helped for a while. But it was just so weird, man, because when you got a full film of fog on your thing and you're looking into the sun, I challenged somebody to try that, because I was like, I couldn't see a buoy, and I like a kayak started looking like a buoy. It was just that weird, hazy thing. So I really just had to sight based off of the splashing in front of me. That was about all I had. So I don't want to blame it on. I mean, the problem was just the rhythm. I couldn't find a rhythm because I kept having to like adjust and like, what the hell, So anyway,
yeah.
But I guess the point of that whole story was that, I wasn't happy with it. I thought probably I might do a 115. I did a 120, big deal, right? But still, then you're kind of, it's like I felt my first time. I felt like I was a little behind the 8 ball, just getting out of the thing. So I had to get that over that and recalibrate my head, And then, so then you're going on the bike and you're like, okay, now what? But I got to say, I felt pretty decent as I got out there. Everybody was, the day before, there was a lot of people that said it was pretty chilly for the first 20 or 30 miles, and the temperature was pretty close, I think. But I've just put on arm warmers and put the bags under my kit, and really within 5 miles, I was ready to take the bags. I was fine, like the whole day. I thought it was just perfect out there.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the swim, like looking out on the water, it was absolutely perfect. I mean, it's always interesting, right? To like overhear. That's one of my favorite things about the finish line is listening to other athletes that finish, go back through the day and talk about the conditions. Kind of very similar to like, back that year you and I did Muncie, and we had trained in the lab for forever. And people were like, man, it was so windy. And I was like, there was wind. We were like, there was wind.
Yeah.
Like it didn't register. I don't know. I had to have heard at least 10 athletes talk about how choppy and how much of a washing machine the swim was.
This year?
Yes. And I was like, guys, you should stop washing clothes. If that is a washing machine, you should stop washing clothes.
Well, it's interesting.
It was
observation.
The most. You're gonna get crowded on the second loop, and that's part of it. But dear God, it was some of the fastest swim conditions I've ever seen there. There were swim times being dropped that were just like so much faster than usual. I'll tell you this: if it was a 1 loop course, not the 2, which adds time. We talked about it again in the podcast, and we saw it on the splits. Depending on your speed, right? The faster you are, the less of the delta, but in the slower you are, a little more increase. But it's between 2 and 7 minutes slower, just for the lap. If it was a 1 loop swim, mass start, everyone's PRing over this last weekend on the swim. Everyone. It was that fast. And I'm still struggling to figure out the how it's safer anyway. They were fast conditions, and then everyone else said, man, like I got warmed up pretty quick, got a lot of compliments. Apparently some of our athletes got feedback on the bike course that the plastic grocery bag in the kit was saving a few people from being too chill. But then it opened up, there was low wind, and it did, like I dressed up to like, go skiing, to start off the freaking spectating. And before anybody got out of the water, I'd go back to the hotel room and change because I was like sweating. I was like, I got to get out of this. It is not nearly as cold as predicted. And I am on fire right now. Like, so I went back to change before anybody got out of the water because I was so hot. I go put shorts on and something like really light up top because I was frying. And I was like, this is great because there's no wind. And as soon as they get out in the sun, they're going to warm up quite a bit. Which is great. It's just, you said about the anxiety. And I think that's always the biggest thing you have to manage on race day is the muscle you have to control the most is the mind. And I think when it goes to I had tons of athletes, I'm sure you did too, that lost all kinds of bottles of nutrition, had to make adjustments, were cold or got hot or or had anxiety or had it is like you said it best. I was like, it's 90% from the chin up and how you manage everything down. But if you don't manage it, or you don't have the mental and emotional energy to manage it, then you're not going to have it. It's so much about being positive. It's so much about, trying to find things to appreciate and be grateful for. And you could tell that, right? Like the athletes that generally kind of do the best on race day are not the ones that are so wound up and so anxious and looking for, negativity around every corner and something. And one thing, just like some foggy goggles could have ruined somebody's whole day and they could have just mailed it in. And I think that is, and if there's one thing happen, it's such an incredibly long day that you're going to go through the roller coaster of emotions and all the difficult things that happen and transpire. But there's a lot of there's just a lot of things that can happen, and that's why it is so very, very, very hard to nail a race, because you have to nail all three and then nail and manage the mental and emotional roller coaster that comes with all three. And it's so much to manage. I think people always underestimate the how you deal with things from the chin up versus worrying so much about their fitness and the sessions that they did or they didn't do, or what power they're going to have or heart. That's why we spent 2 podcasts basically talking about getting mentally prepared and mentally ready to withstand the onslaught that is Ironman day. And it's not even the legs, it's just everything that happens in the head.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the swim for a second, you were right on. I mean, it's like the conditions were good. I mean, the water temp was perfect for me. Everything was great. But if I'm on an anxiety scale, I did a lot of open water swimming, and I think that's what kept me calm, because, it did seem like it was almost, I got in a lot of scrums, it just seemed like shit was going the wrong way. And I was just the whole time just trying to stay in my pocket. And, I was swimming a little bit on the inside of the buoys. Like I hit 4 ropes in a row on the buoy ropes, like in my stroke. And it was just, things were just getting weird like that, But yeah, so I mean, I went through all that, and I think I was 1 minute slower than last year when I had a perfect line. I never hit anybody all the whole day last year. So definitely held it together. It could have really broke apart quick. And then, of course.
Hey, wait, can we go back? I'm going to go back real quick before I forget. What was behind the method? And I don't know that you've ever gotten in the water that early in my entire career of tracking you.
Yeah, because I seriously, I've been doing a lot of open water, man. I really have been feeling good out here. And I just feel very comfortable now in open water. So I was thinking, well, let's just get out there and hopefully there's some clear water. Maybe I'll just, I wasn't afraid to be up with faster swimmers. I thought maybe it'd pull me along a little bit. Maybe it did in a way. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so I get on the bike, and it's, I always feel pretty good when I start the bike, and I got, I was trying to, maintain and be cool. I thought, well, it's going to be cold at first, and then you run into a hill, I guess mile 4 or 3 maybe, or something pretty quick. So I didn't hammer it, but I kind of got into it just a little bit to wake the legs up, and I felt really good going out into Verona, and then started dealing with a few of the hills out there. And then I think it was about Messerschmitt Road, which is about 20 miles or something in, or 25 miles in. And that's the first kind of, well, it was after that highway, and then you get into Messerschmitt and there's 3 rollers out there. And I felt really good, but I knew there's something in me that detected that if I kept, pushing that hard, I was going to be in trouble. I realized it pretty early. So about the bottom, at the end of Messerschmitt going into Mount Horeb, because we were going into the wind out that way. And I just threw up my little ring and climbed into Mount Horeb. And then I made a decision to stay in my little ring the rest of the day. And
so I'm going to stop you there, because I think this is something that people could really gain a lot of insight from, because so many athletes are so stuck on watts and goals and miles per hour, right? You know, we teach this and we talk about it a ton, about how just incredibly important it is to know what a feels like, and what feels like, you know, when your body is signaling you like this is too much, right? Like even like over the course of a taper week, like, you know, the best athletes manage and do their own taper. You know, we can adjust it as much as you want, but you wake up and had an athlete do the 70.3 that adjusted his own taper based on how he's doing. We can't know that. You just adjust it. Same thing with like maybe scaling your bike watts back, and you're like, hey, I think this is kind of what I need to do because I just feel fresh. We had an athlete, Mark Phillips, who went watchless the whole day from start to finish and just felt things out. So what was signaling to you? Like, what were some of the things that you felt that you said, hey, like maybe I need to, like you just said, like, you know, you're going up, you're like, you know what, maybe I need to tone it back just a little bit. What were some of those things that you felt that kind of gave you that confidence to scale it back so that you knew you were making the right decision?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I felt like at the top of my game, and I recognize that, but I felt pretty good. I don't want to feel, you know, so for me, it's like kind of an explosiveness, you know, sometimes you can get out and rip it, you know, around a corner, get into it, you know, so I test these things out as I'm going. I just didn't feel the pop. And I could kind of feel, I just listened to, like, one of the things I listen to is, like, I call it like when the top of your quads are starting to feel it, versus like the inner leg. I don't know how to explain that, but so I knew that I was kind of just getting into a realm there where I was like, excuse me, I'm still coughing.
Emotional.
No, I'm just coughing a little bit, but yeah, I'm emotional. But no, I just could tell that I was like, 40 miles or something in, and I was like, you might want to, because I made a decision too to kind of just get over the hill and then pedal hard and then coast a lot, because I was like, you know what? The reality is, while I have been training a lot, I've been doing a lot of trainer rides and stuff, and I rode the loop a few times. We don't, you know, a lot of us, I'd say, probably don't ride 112 miles anywhere near like we do on that day. And I could tell that I was getting out of that, you know, getting over my skis a little bit. And I didn't feel like I had that reserve. So I just made that decision that I was going to coast as much as possible. Because, you know, I have my bike, for whatever me, like I feel like, you know, I'd start coasting and I'd just start passing people like crazy and they're pedaling, you know, because I have a pretty good downhill. And so I did that. And I started, you know, I was like, damn, this is keeping me in check. And that's really what I needed, because, you know, it's easy to get too aggressive too early out there. And I knew, since I wasn't even at the 3 bitches yet, that I was like, I got to just chill and get through this. And I decided, I don't know if I decided to do it the whole day, but I was like, I'm going to do this the first loop. And then I was like, well, I'm riding this faster than I have been riding my practice ride, so I'm just going to stay with it. And really, it wasn't, I felt strong out there climbing. I felt good all day. You know, the hard part for me is always, you know, the extended aero sections, into the wind and the sustained kind of riding. I'm pretty comfortable climbing. I could have, you know, I felt like I could have climbed all day. Although I say that, and I got to the 3rd hill on the last loop, and I was like, I think I was getting a little cocky because that one bit into me a little bit. And then you come in and thank God we didn't have wind in our face on that stick, or I might have melted out there. Yeah. It was right on the edge, and I'm like, oh, thank you, because there's some climbs left when you get over there, and so it was all pretty level-headed ride, I think, out of myself, to be honest.
I mean, I think that is the 100% the ticket. I mean, we say this for every course, no matter what it is, and people continue to, say, a lot of people say Ironman's all about the bike, and I'm like, no, it's all about restraint on the bike, not going all out on the bike. It's all about restraint on the bike and being able to hold that run, because it's, and you can do the quick math if you want to. Like, you can still plug into things like best bike split and see what 20 watts extra gets you. And we're talking 6-7 minutes, maybe 10, depending on the course, max 12. And then you look at the fact that how much of an energy cost that's going to have, and how much increased level of intensity it's going to have, and then what that impact is on the run. Like, that was one of the comments I read this morning in Training Peaks. It's like, yeah, I kind of knew out of the gate, I had to scale things back a little bit. But then ended up nailing the goal for the bike, which was a normalized power of under 175 for this person. They hit 172, and then they had just an insanely good marathon for them. And they're like, now I know why you had it so low. And I'm like, oh, that's just, it's funny, right? Because I think right, hilly courses are always going to be harder, because you have, for a lot of athletes, right, they may not have the right gearing. They may not have the right pace control. They might not know what certain things feel like, and they just get to hills. And it's funny, right? Because I think when people hear hills and see hills, they think I have to go harder. But the reality is, yeah, you might have to put out a little bit more energy, but you can still meter that by just slowing down the pace that you have and staying within your zone. And it's such a hard, really, really hard thing to do. It's like people can't manage the terrain and those choices anymore, and the change in position. And then you got the downhills, and I'm like, that's just you have to be able to, it's no different than running up, every time you see a hill, it's not a hill repeat. It's just a change in terrain. And how you attack that, and those surges that you don't do, every surge. And that's why I love what you said about, I kind of felt like I didn't have that. And I know what you mean. You just don't feel like you don't have that snap and that extra kind of gear to power you up. You're just not, maybe you're not firing on, you're maybe not firing full yet. And that's those questions that we all have on race day. And we talk about it a lot, pre-races. You should always ask yourself, is what I'm about to do going to help or hurt my run? And you should ask yourself that entire bike ride, right? Is maintaining this speed and maintaining this effort, even though it feels forced, is that going to help or hurt my run? It's going to hurt it. Okay, then I should dial it back. And people don't want to do that because they're so stuck on, even you said, you see your split coming out of the water, and you're immediately, not dejected, right? You weren't dejected, but you're like, that wasn't what I was hoping for. Mm-hmm. Right. And hope is so much bullshit anyway. Right. It's we're throwing a number out of whatever. It's the same. It's kind of the same thing. I told a few athletes that, barely missed, one of them missed going sub 5 at Santa Cruz by 5 seconds. Another one missed going sub 13 by, 47 seconds. And they're all arbitrary numbers that we just kind of put stuff on. I was like, well, the course was a mile short, you would have made it, but would your performance been any better? No, because the only reason you got it was because the course was shorter. You had the same speed overall that day. But the hope that we have, and that's why we always suggest not always, but run, swim, doing the swim without a watch, because you don't have that immediate feedback. It's just, I guess, got to check the box and listen to my body. And I think the more and more we get, the farther we get from understanding and recognizing and feeling things out, or maybe it's I'm really feeling it today, but I gotta hold things back, and expectations and hope, are one thing, but belief and understanding your body is what really allows people, I think, to really perform their best on race day. And again, just like you said on the bike, just knowing what feels like and being able to rein that in. That lesson is, again, most people don't even have that lesson like that to learn from during training, because it's all so incredibly specific and detailed. And if you're not detailed enough, they're like, well, you know, I need more detail here. I'm like, but the race day is far from detail. I mean, arguably, like your race, like your workout on race day is the most like the least amount of detail and scripted from the coach. It is, you know, they give you kind of an outline in a ballpark, but ultimately it's just you. It's you in your head for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. How are you going to manage the day? How are you going to handle that? And if it's your first time doing that, you're going to be like a deer in the headlights. And I think that's and then you're going to make decisions, or you're going to kind of always default back to prescription. Well, this was prescribed. Okay, well, what if it's not correct? Like, what if you're not feeling today? Or what if it's way low and you're having like the day of your life? You know, like it just, the more we get to that on race day, you have to, the person you should trust the most is yourself. And that takes time, right? You know, it's about building trust, and you have to build that trust within yourself to understand like, hey, I know I'm making the right decision because I made it before. So you have to have those opportunities and training to be able to trust yourself on race day, because you don't, you know, there's no one else to depend on. You can get encouraging words, you can get, you know, applause, you can get some cheers from the crowd, but the only person you can depend on race day is yourself. And again, like fitness matters, but your mindset and your ability to navigate, you know, listening to your body and the signals that it's sending, and the intrusive thoughts, right, that come into your head. I mean, I had an athlete say like, I didn't want to be out there at all for mile 5 of the bike. I just didn't want to be there anymore. Mm-hmm. But finished. And to be trapped into that mindset on that course, man, you know, like it takes a whole different level of mental toughness. And while you might not have the race or the time you want to, being able to withstand that feeling of wanting to stop the whole time, but putting yourself through it is a success. And I just think that, again, like, you know, I know we talk about it, we harp on it too much for a lot of people, but I think like the more we distance ourselves from understanding our body and then managing how we can operate on a race mentally and emotionally, like that is where like true breakthroughs happen, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally. Like they happen from the chin up, and if you're not listening and you're not ready for it, then you might miss it.
I couldn't agree more. This, you know, that's what we say, but this, I can honestly say, I think I was about in the same exact place physically last year. Pretty close. I mean, I felt about the same going into that race as I did this year. The difference was all in my head. And I cut basically an hour off, right? So, you know, going into that, you know, that bike and you know, you finishing that bike is the same kind of thing, right? It was, I mean, I came down to this conclusion that it's like, this really sucks when you're out here, but you do it anyway, you know? And that to me was the bottom line. And so I get off that bike and I'm like, you know, you're coming in, and thank God, like I said, we had a little wind behind us on that stick, or it really could have been mentally like doubled. But I got out and I felt okay. I never really kind of felt that leg pop again, but, you know, I got in that run and I went into it with, you know, I had trained basically with run walk, and I had kind of shrunk my walk down. I had a whole game plan, and I actually stuck with it. And, but I had the mantra going, man. My whole thing going to this run was, whenever I thought about walking, I just said, nope, I'm not walking. I just said, nope. And it was a manageable run walk plan. You know, it was kind of a almost like a ladder, scaly kind of thing that I was doing. Part of it was I inserted some shorter stuff to see if I could get my, you know, just like, okay, you got a short one here, kind of get running a little bit more. So I felt like it helped me keep my form rather than really trying to do long stretches. And I was just kind of, you know, as always, I was just kind of hoping that, you know, your legs would just finally come around or open up at some point. And instead of like shuffling the whole day, I didn't want to fall into that trap. But, you know, it probably might not have been that much different But yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, I had that same feeling that your athlete did. Is like, I didn't want to do that. You know, it was like nobody, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, but most people probably get off that bike going, oh my God, I got to run a marathon right now. And I haven't even come close to running that before, you know, this year or something like that. So that's, I mean, it's 100, I mean, 90, I'll even say 5% mental at that point, because you got to get through so many things. I mean, you kind of got to get into your run. You kind of got to get into this groove with, you know, whatever you're going to drink or fuel with. And, you know, that usually, and not usually, but quite often goes to the, you know, goes to the wind, because it's sort of like, yeah, I had this plan, but that does not sound right now, you know? And I literally had, you remember last year I had kind of had those gut cramps, and I had the same exact thing happen about mile 3. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it, man. It's just not going to happen. So I just tried some deep breathing. I just didn't cave into it like I did the year before. And I mentioned that I just felt like I probably could have got through it last year, but I just didn't have the mental tenacity. And this year I just did not. And I just kept going. And
two things. One, you know, I think, you know, again, like, we can't overstate it enough, but like, when you're in dark times mentally and emotionally, the last thing you're ever going to fall back on is like, but yeah, man, like, you did a few like 17, 18 milers. You got this.
yeah,
No,
right.
That shit don't matter, because you're going to be like, well, that's not today, and I can't feel it, or I'm not matching that pace. You know, I want to talk about the discomfort here in a minute, but what did you make any changes, right, to your bike fueling plan compared to last year?
I did. Yeah.
And can you go through those for us? I mean, not like, you know, over detail, because, you know, you got to keep things on brand.
Well, no, I did. This year I kind of went into it, and I'd been doing it in my like longer rides on the weekends. I kind of committed to, and this year, you know, because of the little cooler temperatures, it was a little, you know, I think it was probably a little easier to negate, you know, your fueling. You know, it's harder to, you know, to drink a lot when it's a little cooler. But I made a commitment to not under fueling, which I think I have a tendency to do sort of as the ride goes on. You know, it's like, oh God, you know, this stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually had been training with and felt really good about it. I was going with organic maple syrup.
Love it.
And water with salt. You know,
water, salt.
Yeah.
Was the syrup in the bottles, or was it like separate in its own like
it was all mixed.
Bottle?
I had it pre-mixed. And then I was doing Cliff Bars again. So that, you know, they kind of go back to maybe that was part of it or something. The gas, I don't know, but I just have a hard time just going all liquid. So that's just always been my plan.
Yeah.
I've always,
and
you know,
I think fueling fatigue is something that everybody gets. I mean, like, especially like on the back of that ride is like you need more calories than ever, because you're expending so much energy, and it's requiring so much of a cost to burn what you're trying to burn. But then you're like, God, I'm just fucking tired of eating and drinking. Like, and so that's when people fall behind. And the last place you're ever going to catch up is the run, unless you're committing to walking, you know, like a whole mile, because your heart rate's so high, it's just hard to consume. So, I mean, I'm almost positive I know the answer to this question, but I'm asking anyway. Any idea how many calories in each bottle, or how much maple syrup you used? Because I heard a lot of people using maple syrup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say in the I don't know. I would say it was close to 80 grams.
Okay.
And then I was having a Cliff Bar about every hour, so I was going high.
Yeah.
But I may not have gotten it all, you know. So whatever, close to 100 maybe, or a little bit more. And like I said, I've been training with it. There was some training rides where I was feeling really strong at the end. But anyway. But then I had to, I was going to keep fueling with it on the run, but that plan went to hell because I was just over it. I had it on my belt, and I started sipping it a little bit, and it just wasn't there. So I went to basically, you know, then I got that crampy shit. So I really just fueled the whole marathon on water and Coke.
Got it.
I think, and Emily gave me some Sour Patch Kids. Those are hitting spot or whatever the hell those things are.
Those sound heck yeah. That's
It was
probably
really
exactly what you need. You need a little bit of a taste bud shocker.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was just tasting. I mean, it felt, so yeah, I was on the edge of that cramp stuff for a while, and then I kind of got through it. And then I think really what helped me was getting more water in. I think that's sort of like, it's hard to drink a lot of it, but, I was trying to get every aid station with some water, and it settled down. And yeah, same thing. I thought maybe I had a little more in me, but just to be able to sustain that was, it would have been real easy. There's 50 times and I had to, say nope, and I'm not going to walk. And I got to mile 23, and that's out on I guess after that little turnaround out there or something, or right before the turnaround, it was right after the turnaround, and I said, I'm sick of this shit. And I just ran it in. And I used my nope philosophy about 100 times in that last 3 miles, but I ran it in. So,
just that kind of back and forth, like you want to go back and say, all right, let's say if, 1,300, 1,500 finished, how many times did they have to say no, like during the course of that, of the marathon? Because it is 100% a choice. Right. I mean, obviously, like there's people you saw like cramping off the bike and doing whatever, but once you get to a certain speed, your body can't go any faster. It's still you can more than likely 9 times out of 10, you can probably still go another half mile. And then if you reassess, then you could probably say, I could probably make another half mile.
Yeah.
It's that you can still, it's just that choice to start, and then it feels so good. Then you start to crave that. And I think like, it's a really like, and you've always been really great at like absorbing and being, levels of discomfort. And this isn't like Ironman related, but I guess it is in a way. Like, do you think that like one of the books I've been reading is called The Comfort Crisis? Mm-hmm. And it's just about basically like how easy we're making things, especially here in America. We're trying to control so many things and not be uncomfortable ever, that it's just like really affecting us on like basically every level possible. And one of my thoughts, and like I know people say, oh, it's the time that it takes to train for an Ironman and all that kind of stuff, but do you think some of the participation levels in Ironman are down a little bit because as a society, our levels of our what we consider discomfort, or our ability to manage discomfort, or maybe even how fearful we are of discomfort, is not pushing people? Like people aren't craving that anymore. People aren't, like I'll just read like the first like description of it. It says, in many ways, we're more comfortable than ever before. But could our sheltered, temperature-controlled, overfed, under-challenged lives actually be the leading cause of many of our most urgent physical and mental health issues? And well, when I read that before I got the book, I was like, man, that is like embracing the Ironman training, and then like embracing what is going to happen on race day. Like you said, this is going to suck. Like I'm willfully going to put myself through a tremendous amount of pain, and I'm going to love it. And like you see people at the finish line that are just absolutely destroyed, right? And it's like they chose to do that today. But then like the ripple effect of those choices and other aspects of their life, like completely, in my opinion, like make them so much more resilient had they not done it. And I think, what you were talking about it sucked, and I was more mentally there than I was, last year. And obviously like, mental resilience is such a huge thing anyway. I think it's just an interesting, how we continuously try to protect ourselves from so many things and aren't willing to kind of go to the well or put ourselves out there or take the leap. Or maybe there'll be next year, maybe it'll be this. I mean, we both have, plenty of athletes have amazing days, and plenty of athletes who just said, man, today is not my day, but I'm going to see it through and I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, like that's almost as if not more admirable than like the best day ever. Cause like sometimes when you get the best day ever, it's like really nothing in your control. You just woke up on that day and you had that day and you were just in the zone. You had to sort of execute, right? It's not, it's not poo poo in the PR, but for the ones that are just like suffering for so long, you're like, man, like most people these days can't even fathom purposely suffering and being in that much discomfort for that long, much less not getting like some bigger reward than a medal at the finish line you dropped $1,000 for. But yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting to kind of see, because in America, the full distance entries are like still hovering or slightly dropping or maybe a bit above, and then a lot of other countries they're selling out in like 24 or 48 hours still.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was not to go like on a sidetrack for that, but I just think the chasing of discomfort and the challenging of ourselves mentally and emotionally and the positive we get from that is just, it continues to be underrated and probably, not sought after enough by the people that probably need it the most.
Yeah. I don't like to, judge people on things like that. I just feel like there's a big machine that has slowly seduced us into this comfort place. And, I was fortunate enough for whatever reason to maybe recognize that a long time ago. I think it has something to do with, that news stuff I talk about, working in the news, and how those messages are just so negative and, stay inside, don't do anything, it's going to rain, or whatever the case is, storm, this and that. And, like our dependency on air conditioning. And we talk about that a lot. Like everybody's talks about like, it's getting so hot nowadays, the planet's whatever. And I'm just like, I don't think it's different. I just think we're so used to comfort zones that it's an extreme in a lot of levels. It feels more hot when, so like when you do stuff like that, we talk about, I think one of the best things Ironman has given me is, the first year when I started, I was thinking about this today because my first half marathon was before I did an Ironman, and I was sore, like to the point where I couldn't walk for a good week without, tremendous amounts of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 61. I just did Ironman Sunday and I feel fine. And what I notice is like, yeah, when I get up, my knees hurt and whatever like that. But I just know it's something that comes with it, that's going to go away. And, as I was going through taper this time, and I remember back in the days when I used to feel these taper pains and panic and all this shit. And of course I had an ankle thing bothering me when I got to Madison, like the top of my foot was like in serious pain. And I was like, no, that ain't going to happen. It's just, it's so easy to be a prisoner of that moment with things like that. And I just don't do it anymore. Like I woke up this morning and I felt like, oh man, cause I had some coughing going on and I had my sore, my throat was feeling a little sore. I just wanted some deep breathing and I just said, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to let it happen. And you just move on. I think the more what's that saying? Whatever you persist or resist persists or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. I just don't do that anymore. I just roll, it's like, I don't even, honestly, I think if I've had like 2 Tylenol or painkillers this year, that's about my limit. I just don't go that way first, and I think it's because, maybe I do just go into that zone of pain more and it just creates more of a resistance or something. So little things don't bother me as much as they used to. And I think in a way that might be the biggest payback from this sport is that it just makes us more resilient. And you figure shit out the longer you do this. I mean, 12 straight years I've done Ironman, and that includes a lot of training, man, and a lot of days you don't want to do it, and a lot of days that it hurts and you're sick of it and you're pissed off and depressed or whatever. But, it's just, in a way, it's just like a great training ground for the little things, it's like, I don't know. I mean, we all, want to live pain-free or whatever, and without anxiety and fear and depression and all that stuff. But, this is just part of the journey, man. And I think the more we go through these kind of things, the better we're, capable of handling just day to day or whatever. And but it boils down to you and what are you doing? What are you doing to, challenge yourself and get through those tough moments? And, it's just weird because, I'll say it again, but like last year I wasn't that person. And this year I just went in there with a different mindset and basically the same physical capabilities and knocked an hour off that time. Not like that's anything, to write home about necessarily, but I just think the difference was mental. And we can all do that, but it's just work. It's doing shit when you don't want to, and like I don't know. I think like I don't necessarily like preach the benefits of all the plunging and sauna shit that I do, but I do think that, maybe that helped me when I got on that bike and I wasn't cold. I don't know. It's just, what are you doing today that's going to, make you stronger tomorrow?
Yeah. I think, when you look to challenge yourself and you look to find something, right? And I think, because we're getting towards the end of the year, right? And people are already looking at next year. We're announcing team races for next year, and people are excited about, because you got to plan a little bit, at least for 70.3s, because they do sell out now. When you look for that, and you got, I know it's eager to want to plan out a race. Obviously, you want to plan one that fits, right, and that fits well into your life, that at least sets you up for success. But I think one of the other things that to look for is, not necessarily always looking for something that's going to allow you to PR or always put out the best performance possible, because performance to me is relative. It's like, how well can I perform on a day where I really didn't have to put that much effort out? Effort, I was again relative, right? There's always effort included, but you just had that day, right? It's like there's physical performance, and there's also days where you're like, what's my best physical, or excuse me, what's my best emotional and mental performance day, where I had to fight tooth and nail to squeak out every single second and minute that I could possibly get. And some people need those desperately, right? You look at how often and how frequent so many people struggle emotionally and mentally these days with all kinds of things, right? And chasing a day or a PR where you're going to have to perform well, and if something, because there's plenty of athletes out there that if the workout doesn't go perfectly, they just don't like it. If they can't hit all their numbers, they just don't like it. Or if it doesn't feed their ego or their need for feeling great or fast day, they just don't like it. That's, we have one great work. Like I told somebody this morning, you have one best workout of the year and one worst. Everything else in the middle. That's just it. There's like one best workout of 2025, one worst. Everything else stuck in the middle. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think figuring out what you really need, right, to perform better in life. Do you need something that's going to challenge you mentally? Do you need something that's going to challenge you emotionally? Do you need to challenge yourself physically? Like, do you need to find something to get your health back? Like, to me, like, those are the top three things that people should be looking at when they look at how to challenge themselves and the investment they make in these races and the time away and the commitment. Like, because those things are long lasting. Yes, you can get a PR, and yes, you can feel like a champion for a few days. But again, like on your ride home, people, and you get back to work, people aren't gonna have any idea what you did. They're gonna be like, "Hey, how was that 10K you did? Oh, welcome back. Where'd you do this weekend?" They'd be like, "And you paid money for that? Oh, is it all at once? Did you do Kona?" And you're like, "No, I didn't." Then they're gonna walk right past you. It's figure out what you need and what's gonna help drive that to, again, like being more successful every minute of every day and not just putting all this effort and time and hope and expectations and judgment on yourself and of how, what's going to make a race a success, right? Is making my PR and everything else is a failure. I'm like, well, that sounds like a whole lot of pressure. And the truth of the matter is, if that's what your mindset is, then you probably need more in like that, a mental emotional space, right? What's gonna be healthy for my body? What's gonna put me in a good spot? What's gonna make me a better version of myself? And then what lessons can I learn from it? And what lessons can I teach others? Perfect example, one of my athletes who had, really, really high expectations for their first full distance Ironman, goes out there, has a blistering swim, 55 minutes, goes through a few bike splits, and I can kind of tell like something ain't right, something's going on, and then kind of, I'd say, and I told him this, probably 25, 30 minutes slower than what I predicted on the bike, takes an extra long, it takes an extra long time in transition. I finally see him and he's like, man, I just can't catch my breath. I'm short of breath. I can't get my heart rate up. And just stand there and talk to me. It's just like, he just couldn't catch his breath. It looked like he was in zone 5, standing perfectly still. And as a coach, you're like, I don't give a fuck if you don't, like, if you're taking care of yourself, like what you do. And I'm like, do you want to finish out? Do you want to call it a day? And he's like, I'm gonna walk it. And in my head, I'm like, dear God, you're better than me, because it's a long day to be out there to walk it in your first one, especially when all you know is like, I had all these expectations and this is happening. I don't have any idea why. And then he finishes and, he says, I said, man, I'm so proud of you, man, for sticking it out there. Man, that says a lot. And he says, yeah, it's the same thing. His wife and daughter were there. And he said, yeah, but my daughter's here. And you know what? We always tell her, you start what you finish. Mm. And, it's like, for a guy that had probably 3 hours, he was out there 3 hours longer than he probably wanted to be or expected to be, still being able to find a lesson, in that. And, and talking to some other, the last few years I haven't been at the finish line. I've kind of stood at my normal spot and seen people. This year I wanted to make sure I got back to the finish line and saw some of the reactions from family members and, people, and seeing people cross the finish line. I just feel like I needed that. And it was fun to see, but it was fun talking to some of like the spouses of the athletes, and they're like, yeah, like, they're kind of give you a hard time. And they're like, oh, you're the one that's been taking up so much of my husband's time. I'm like, well, listen, I'm just doing what I'm told here. But they're like, yeah, like I've never seen him look so healthy and look so good. And like, I think we lose sight so much in the world of Strava and Training Peaks medals and comparison, these little metrics that are really meaningless. Like on your tombstone when you die, it's not going to say like, John Doe, here's the date you died. And it's going to be like, 5K PR, 10K PR, half marathon, Ironman, AWA gold status. Well, hopefully not. I guess it's your choice, but it's nothing. It means zero. But how good you feel when you train, how good you feel in everyday life. You're taking care of your body, you're challenging yourself, you're putting yourself in discomfort, you're challenging yourself to be comfortable, you're setting a goal and you're sticking with it, you're doing things that other people that you're setting. A lot of people, you're setting examples for people who you don't even know you are. And I just think that there's so many wins to be had that are often overshadowed and not talked about because there's other things that look a little more shinier, but it's oftentimes the stuff that matters most is the stuff that you can't show, you can't hang on a wall, right? You can't post about. It's just like something that or that you earn, or that you become, and then what others see in that. And I think as you're looking, maybe if you're reflecting on this year or looking at next year, is to ask yourself, you said this before, I'm sure too, to plenty of athletes, but sometimes they're like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, honestly, I think you need it. Like, I think you need this jolt, to go down this road. Who knows where it's going to end, but I think you need this. I think you need to go down that road. I think it's time to take a turn, take it off cruise control, or maybe even just get out of the damn garage, right? And take yourself down a path that, you've been afraid to go down. And I think it's just Ironman does that like no other sport. And then when you got the community and the spectators in the city, I mean, it's really is a special weekend, a special environment, and a really special opportunity, I think, for everybody that gets to participate in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess on reflection, I think about that race, and I kind of know, I mean, everybody that's listening probably knows that I try to create a lifestyle around my training and not, something that I enjoy, and I don't overkill stuff, and I'm trying to find all these methodologies. And I think the idea that, I'm doing one race, Ironman a year, that probably is what that anxiety stuff was, because you have that one shot, and I kind of always put that on my own back. And I realized, probably I would be faster if I raced a little more. That's just reality, but I don't necessarily know if that's something I want to do all the time, and especially with coaching and stuff like that. So it is what it is, and then you mentioned it earlier about a fast race, and then I look at my age group, 60, 64, the first 3 guys are sub 11. And I go into this race thinking, well, if I can get sub 12, because based on previous years, that's podium usually in my age group, sub 12. And there was 3 guys under 11. And if anybody out there knows this guy, Tim Bradley, make sure he gets a hold of me. I got to know what the hell's going on. He goes 10-16 in my age group at 60, 64.
You said 3 guys were sub 11?
Yeah. That turned out to be
last year 11:36 won it.
Yeah. Somebody told me whatever that new algorithm is, my age group was the toughest or the best scoring algorithm group based on the handicaps and all that. Yeah, 3 guys.
Age graded system.
Dude goes 10-16 out there on me.
On you?
I was just like, I'm so impressed with that, man. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him and say, hey, bro.
Yeah, give me some advice. I mean, but so like last year, 5th in my age group, last on podium last year was 11:20.
Yeah. This
year, that would have been good for a blistering, high-placed, well-earned 36th.
Unbelievable.
36th from podium to 36th. It's just, I mean, it's wild, right? But again, like it does go to show you, like, and I tell athletes this all the time that are like looking for Kona qualifications and qualifying, and even before the new age graded system, I'm like, it's all luck and a great performance. You got to have both. I mean, I learned this a long time ago. I had a guy do Ironman Louisville, didn't even make it on the podium in his age group. So wasn't even top 5 in his age group, but was 8th overall the whole day. You're like, what are you going to do? I did though read where, and this is kind of heartbreaking, a poor soul missed out on the last age graded spot by 1 second.
Oh, Jesus.
By 1 second. You got to tuck those plastic grocery bags in. I probably should have given that a tip. You got to tuck those in, make sure they're nice and flat. That's a half watt. There's your second right there.
Yeah.
We'll take the heat on that one. That's all us.
Oh man, that is, I mean,
that's
the
heartbreaking,
second guessing
dude.
on that has got to be unbelievable. I saw a video, I think my sister shot of Glenn, one of our guys, coming up the helix, and there's 2 people walking on the inside, and he had to kind of go out and around him. That could have been the difference, man. It's like next year we're going to, at the Wisconsin camp, we'll give the tip to stay wide on the helix or you're going to get backlogged. 1 second.
He had a little senior moment there. He was a little agitated, quickly to be agitated. There were some blatant spectator miscues, as always, at Ironman races. I mean, at one point during the fucking race, there was a woman walking her golden Labrador collie doodle up the middle of the helix. I'm like, what? Just completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Right, to anything else going on. I'm like,
I got to tell you though, I mean, like, as we said, I walked down the Helix that morning and I was like, oh, Ironman Wisconsin is coming back. I think
There's
a lot of people there. I got to tell you, the bike course was on fire with spectators again. Of course, the run course is always solid, and I really don't have any complaint. Maybe just only one complaint is that there was too many volunteers. I was like, it was like I had a server, you know, like it was like you had 3 servers at your table.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mortal, water, here's some Coke.
Yeah.
I got like a
you walk into the
cheeseburgers.
first table at the restaurant. There's 28 hostesses at the front. You're like, I don't even know who to talk to right now, or who to say. Like, you're like, I feel stared at. What did you? I mean, there was some slight run course changes. What did you think about? What did you think about those?
Oh, I thought it was great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thank God they didn't run us up Observatory again. But
what I heard was the little up and down, the little overpass was worse.
Yeah, I could see that, but I don't think it is. But it wasn't fun, that little curly Q thing they had. That was there last year, but they took us out of that neighborhood this year, which saved us quite a bit, I think.
Okay.
But you still had to kind of go down that hill by the stadium and then come back up it. So they, you know, I would say it was probably still close to what they had last year, but, you know, I liked it. I mean, a couple little changes, but it was pretty much the same. And
I'm a huge fan of the not going all the way around the Capitol Square.
Are you?
As a spectator, it's nice to just have the cross traffic and flow all come right there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I could see that as a spectator.
I mean, it's not about me, obviously, but it was great.
One year they did it where we came down that way and then ended around the Capitol, which I kind of like. I like the whole, you know, but I can see why they did it. I don't know why they take Observatory out, to be honest. I mean, it sucks, but it's kind of a sweet little departure from that bike path or run path. It's kind of it's a tough little section, but I don't know. I mean, it's not like a highly trafficked road or anything. I don't know why they took it out, but probably just to cut down aid stations.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I mean, I will say, like, and we can close it out, but a big group of us over there to spectate. We all headed out Saturday morning for a little 10-miler along the lake, and it was just glorious. Yeah. I mean, beautiful. Yeah. Just a beautiful weekend, man. I'm glad to hear that you thought it was, you know, was kind of coming back, as it felt the same way. And, I thought Best Western Inn in the Park brought their game too. Yeah.
They always
great
bring
hospitality.
it, man.
They did. They brought it. I mean, yeah, it was on it all weekend. We loved it. Again, that's our recap. Great to see everybody out there and get some high fives and fist bumps and, you know, whatever else they do these days with saying hi to people. But it's always great to see people who listen and get good feedback. And again, love the race. We'll for sure be back next year. Before we close out, was that your last one?
Yep, of course it was.
Of course it was.
Just like I gave up on Badger football.
I was gonna say, exactly, right. I was sitting next to you at dinner, and you were like trying to sell all your Wisconsin gear at the end of the first quarter, and then by the end of the game, they were at 42-10, and you were back in.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, man? Who knows?
It's nice.
12's a nice number.
Plan. Yeah.
I mean,
it is a nice number.
I qualified for my legacy slot right there, didn't I?
Oh yeah, you sure did.
Congratulations, me.
Congratulations, Mike Terrell. Yeah, you don't. Here's the problem, right? Is you don't want to end on unlucky 13 either.
Yeah.
So you're either going to stop now or do 2 more. I mean, there's really no in between. 15's a solid number too.
15 is a solid number. Well, my 13th will definitely not be Kona.
Yeah, we see him get that Tim guy in the podcast. But yeah, unbelievable performances.
Yeah, maybe he can perk me up a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he can. Well, as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Thursday. Maybe do a little bit of a Ironman World Championship Nice preview. But we love you guys and appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. I will
check you later.
Catch you Thursday.